Welcome to another episode of the Thinking Man's Templar. Now, before I get started, I would like to thank all of those who've liked, shared, subscribed to the channel. And any newcomers would love that you do the same as we go on this journey of truth together as men. Today's subject is one that took me a while to kind of come up with the right way to say. I don't want to hurt any men, but I want to keep men on the right track. Today's subject is, if you've never met your father, look him up and find out the truth. See, a lot of us men are cursed from the womb. We are brought up in a society that allows whoredom to run wild. And a lot of us men are the children of whores, not wives. We're the children of harlots. And we must come to grips with that if we are to move on. See, this is advanced red pill conversation. So if you're getting offended, this may not be the time and you may not be ready for this content. But for those who remain, this is the root of it all. So we must all sit and come to the realization that a lot of our mothers were whores and harlots, sleeping around in the 70s and 80s. Women's rights and liberation freed a lot of women's sexual cravings. A lot of women were finally getting to reveal their true selves, not in the nature that we see now, but back then they were just taking off their masks and showing their true nature. Female nature was just being uncovered to the world, and men were getting their first glimpse of the ugly truth about women. And a lot of women were sleeping with a lot of men. A lot of late nights, a lot of men who didn't have your mother's first name, a lot of dating, a lot of sleeping around. And these women had children. And some of us men were able to survive. We were blessed and we survived our single mothers. You weren't raised in a single mother household, you survived it. Especially if you grew up in the hood, in the ghettos. You survived your single mother. You survived the dysfunction and the trauma, and growing up in a household under no male protection as a child. You were blessed to survive that. And if you made it, you've made it because you were blessed by the Creator and despite your mothers. See, a lot of us, our mothers were drug addicts, dysfunctional women, didn't even seem to want us, they left us. Some of us were salvaged by our grandmothers, who were probably the last root of women who understood the importance of raising strong men. Like my grandmother, she salvaged me from my mother's dysfunction. But as we grow up, we always, as young men, once we get a certain age, we want to know about our fathers. And that's when the lies begin, or the half-truths, or the omittance of truths. Some of us have names, whereabouts, cities of origin. Some of us don't even have that. Some of us have nothing. But in a technological era we live in, we are blessed with the ability to research and find things. Look up our lineage, our bloodline. So this in itself is a blessing for all of us bastard men, us whore sons. If you ever read the book by Donald Goines, he had a book called Whore Son. It was about a young man who was the child of a prostitute and was raised by her and her prostitute friends. A lot of us are not that far from that boy. We just been told a story about our mothers, that our mothers were saints. But as we grew up, we started to see a lot of mothers around us, and growing up and seeing young women with children and realizing these women are the furthest thing from saints. They just happen to have children. Some of these women are the most loose women in the community. And now we as men, we're beginning to break down that falsehood. We're starting to find the truth in all the lies. But there's always one truth that us men seem to go around, because it's a sensitive topic. But you got to get over the fact that your mother may have been a whore. I mean, why else would your father not be there? Now, there's cases in marriage where men leave the relationships. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm saying this. If the single mother rate is at 80%, and it's been steadily between 60 and 80% for the last 20 to 30 years, what is that saying? There weren't a lot of marriages. These women were just getting fucked. Now, we know how this game goes. A lot of men don't want these children. They don't want to be involved with these women. And a lot of these women are carrying babies to term in order to keep these men, only to find out that these men leave. Now, not saying that it's admirable, but we have to get the truth. There's a lot of reasons you guys have to think. Your mother may have not even told your biological father about you. He may not have known she was pregnant, you know? See, here's the thing you have to think about. You are the seed of your father. So if you are a good man, if you've grown up to be a good man, a man of respect, a man of honor, intelligence and wisdom, then you are the seed of that man that was the same. Now, and we also know that black women do not like those type of men in their prime years, only on their back nine, so to speak. So, if your father was one of those men, then there's a good chance that he may have been rejected. He may have been used for sperm. There's a lot of reasons. Also, you have to think of the fact that the man that you may think is your stepfather or biological father may not know that you're not his child. See, this goes deep. There are men that are raising grown adult boys that aren't theirs, daughters that aren't theirs, and they have no clue, because they were the good guy that took over the responsibility, or the man that she planted the baby on while she was laying with the bad man. So you have to come to the conclusion that your mother may have been loose. And it's up to your responsibility, see, to look up and look through the scattered pieces of your fragmented existence and find the other pieces that are missing. Look up your father. Find out the truth. He might not have known you ever existed. He may have a different story to tell. Your mother was cheating on him. She had multiple partners. I didn't know who was what and what was what, so I just got out of there. Your mother was a loose woman. She was about town. She wasn't my girlfriend. She wasn't my wife. She was my late night, my side girl. I was already married. Your mother wanted to keep the child, and I told her I had a family. But she still slept with me. See, these are things you may not be ready to hear about your dear, beloved mother. See, us men have to pull the wool off completely, not off the women of our generation, the women that we deal with. We also have to pull the wool off the women of the previous generation. Get to the root of the matter, the root of the discussion. See, a lot of men may not know these things or care to know, and that's fine. That's your choice. But a lot of us men want to know who we come from. Because me, I feel like I'm a good man. I'm a man of high intelligence and character, so I must be the seed of a man like that. And we know how black women tend to reject those men and use those men for sperm, money, abuse those men with lies and betrayal. So you may be getting a bullshit story about your father, and it's up to you to find the truth, see? Because your mother will never tell you that. See, but a lot of us men had all of the evidence of our mother's whorish tendencies, as we've seen different men in and out, walking in on her with men in the bed. I know I've done that plenty of times, different men. My mother in sexual situations with men in the home while we were in the home as well. See, so you have to come to the grips that your mother may have been a slore, a whore, a slut, a tramp, a harlot. It just is what it is. Back in those days, in the 60s and 70s, women were fresh off the chain. They were doing a lot of crazy things, a lot of drugs, a lot of sex parties, a lot of swingers, a lot of orgies. Female nature had been unleashed on the Western world for the first time. So a lot of us children are just the residue of whoredom. So I need you men to get over that bullshit about your mother being Mother Teresa. And maybe she just was your average street-walking whore, jumping from dick to dick, man to man, and eventually she lost count. And she didn't know who was who and what was what. And maybe she was the girl who tried to plant you on different good men and rejected her because she had so much mileage. She didn't even know who was your father, anything. And she taught you how to hate a man you never met, hate a man who may have never known you existed. So it's up to us men to find the truth. It's up to you to do the digging. It's up to you to check your DNA history. These things are tools that we can use. Excuse me. These are tools that us men can use. We have the right to go find our roots. You may miss out on the wisdom of a great man because you believe the lies of your mother telling you that he was a deadbeat, an abuser, a drug dealer, a cad, when he may have been a good man just trying to be in your life, and she took you away from him and left. A lot of women took children and went to different sides of the country, scattered from the East Coast to the West Coast, leaving no address. And in those days, it wasn't like the internet and Facebook. It was no social media. If you really wanted to be lost, you can be lost. Literally changing your phone number will disconnect you from anyone and you want. A lot of women were on their feminist tip real strong. They were fresh with that mantra, I don't need a man, I don't want a man. And they were just getting pregnant, taking the children, and running. Just like these whores we see today, doing the same exact thing that the women before them did. We have it on Maury, we see it in our everyday lives. We may have even become victims of it. So you men need to get over that bullshit about your mother was not capable of any type of skullduggery or deception over your father. You need to get the truth. You need to go out and find what really happened for your own sake, for your own sanity. Go find the truth, brothers. Look up your father. If you never met him, look him up. Don't believe your mother's lies. Don't believe what she says. Take it for face value. Take it with a grain of salt. Do your research. You're a man. It's your responsibility. You don't take the word of a woman, even your own mother in some cases. And this is just a warning to you, men. You may regret on something great. You may be saying, I don't have a father. I never met my father. I don't care. I made it without him. You may have that chip on your shoulder. And I understand. But if you've made it, you don't know who this man may be. He may be a great man on his side, and when you look him up, he may look at you and for the first time see a young man or a grown man with his features and drop a tear because he didn't even know he had a son. He may not know he even had a daughter in some cases. So with the rates of things going, us men have to take the responsibility of breaking all of the chains of our mental enslavement. Not just some, but all. And it starts with the mothers who began this downward spiral. You have to look at your mother and know who she used to be, not who she pretends to be now. See, all women put on a sainthood mask in their later years. In their 30s and 40s, they want to be the good girl now, but in the earlier years, they love the role of the whore, the slut. They loved it. It went right along with their feminist brainwashing, and they thought that they can compete with men in the sexual battlefield, and they took as many casualties as they could on their way to failure, single motherhood and poverty and mental collapses. I'm not going to take you men too deep in this journey because I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. Look your fathers up. Don't take it as face value. If you never met him and you don't have much to go on and your mother just said he was a piece of shit, it's up to you to dispel that bullshit. Go find him. Look him up. That's what thinking men do. This is a place for men who think critically, not emotionally. Don't get emotional when I say your mother may have been a whore. If you're a single, if you're a man and you have two different brothers and sisters by different fathers, and you still haven't come to the conclusion that your mother was a whore when she was younger, she was a harlot, then you're a man I can't help. And if you're offended at this point, then you're just not ready for this red pill, because this red pill is glowing hot red, neon, burning like amber. This is the red pill of all red pills. You must come to grips with the truth about your mothers, especially when you have the evidence right in front of you. You have 2 sisters, 3 brothers, 3 different fathers. You have a sister, a brother, another different father. These are your breadcrumbs, gentlemen. It's your emotions that are keeping you from seeing the truth. And once you see that truth, you'll be able to see the truth about all women. And it will free you mentally. So I'm giving you that first little dosage, something to think about. Because this is a thinking man's Templar. And we are knights and soldiers and men of honor and wisdom. We don't let our emotions get in the way of our truth. So I hope you take this red pill seriously and consider what I'm trying to tell you. If you've never met your father, look him up and find the truth. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is the Thinking Man's Templar. You gentlemen, take care.